Hello students and welcome to the lecture. So students, as we know that we are covering the schedule in the tribal areas, right? This is the topic on which we have been discussing right now. And basically within this particular topic, all of these are the topics we have scheduled for the discussion, right? Like starting with the introduction part, thereafter the scheduled areas in India and overview of it, then criteria for identification of scheduled areas, constitutional provisions and the governance, concerns related to the scheduled areas, administration of scheduled areas, thereafter the scheduled tribes, okay, thereafter the general concerns of the tribal community, then addressing the challenges, okay, thereafter the significance of the indigenous communities, then the problems that are being faced by the tribal groups, then conclusion, and thereafter the administration of the tribal states or tribal area. Okay, so these are the topics that we had scheduled for the discussion. If we talk about the topic that we have covered so far, then these are the introduction part, thereafter the scheduled areas in India and overview, then criteria for identification of scheduled areas, thereafter the constitutional provisions and the governance, okay, thereafter the concerns related to the scheduled areas, thereafter administration of the scheduled area, and then the scheduled tribes. Okay, so these are the topics, and even the new topic is the general concerns of the tribal community. So these topics are the topics that we have covered so far. If we talk about the topic we are left with, these are the addressing the challenges, okay, thereafter the significance of the indigenous communities, then problems that are being faced by the tribal groups, then the conclusion, and then the administration of the tribal areas, right? So basically this is the picture that we have created so far all together. Basically in this lecture we will continue from where we had left in the previous one. Okay, so basically in the previous lecture we have finished the general concerns that are related with the tribal communities. Okay, like you can see, the topic that we are going to start is the addressing the challenges. Addressing the challenges is the new topic that we are going to start. Okay, so far we have discussed the various kinds of concern. Okay, various kinds of concerns and all that are related with the tribal areas. Now we are going to talk about how do we address the challenges. Okay, how do we address the challenges that are basically related with the tribal areas. Okay, and the first thing that we are going to do it is the legal reforms. Okay, the first thing that we are going to study in this series of addressing the challenges is the legal reform. What is the meaning of this? So we can say strengthening the legal framework so that we could ensure secure the land tenure and the resources for the indigenous communities. Okay, like we know, in the terms of legality, basically the indigenous communities and the tribals, basically these are living in the forest. They do not having the right and access on the forest resources and even the ancestral lands. Why? Because they have not registered the land on their name as the provisions we have in the mainstream. Okay, that is the main reason why we are required to look after the legal framework that we have. Why? Because we have discussed, like when we talk about the land encroaching, or you can say encroaching of land of the tribals by the external entities. So basically, the main thing that these external entities have in this is that they take the advantage of legal loopholes. Take the advantage of legal loopholes that are there in our system. And on the basis of this, basically, they encroaches the land. All right. So the first thing, the origin of the problem basically lies here in the legal framework that we have. If we really want to do something for the tribals and all, the first thing that we are required to do is change this legal framework. Make it in accordance with the things that the tribals needed, so that the external entities, the benefit they are taking regarding this, that should be stopped at anyhow. Okay. And also the resource rights. Why? Because generally, whenever the mining companies and others enters into the forest, okay, they try to conserve the nearby area. So when I using the word conserve, what you are getting from it, you are getting, okay, they want to conserve the environment and all. What is the issue with this? There is totally no issue. They could do it. But here comes the real picture. Basically, they could do it, but not like by encroaching the land. All right. Their conservation means like they set up a boundary and then they will prohibit the entry of the indigenous people or the tribals within that boundary. And what it will impact for? It will basically impact as the resource rights. Why? Because the forest resources that lies within this particular boundaries, these will be confined. Okay. And these would be not available for the tribals, right? So basically, that's why the indigenous communities will lost their resource rights. Okay, that's why we requires the implementation of existing laws like the Forest Rights Act, like the Forest Right Acts. So here you can say what we are getting: implementation, second word effective, third is the existing laws. So if we try to connect it with together, what we will get, that we will get already the law regarding this is existed. Already the law regarding this is existed. Okay, but its implementation is not so be ensured. Okay, like we have seen that the Fair Compensation, Transparency in the Land Acquisition and Rehabilitation Resettlement Act was already there. Okay, we have that kind of act, but that act's implementation is not be ensured. Even the Biological Diversity Act of 2002 we have in our system, but the implementation is not being ensured. Okay, so that's why the effective implementation is required. Not only the implementation but the effective, which means that the law should not be implemented on paper. On paper the things are there, okay, this provision has been taken, this measure has been taken, all of this kind of things take, but on ground nothing of that existed. Okay, so this is the thing. And if we talk about the Forest Right Act, okay, so what you are getting from it, like so far whatsoever things, whatsoever rights you have discussed or learned about the forest and all, these are basically like the forest conservation, okay, forest this and that and this kind of things. But right now you are getting the fact about the rights. Okay, forest and its rights. What is the meaning of this? What is the significance of this? Basically, this acts providing for the rights. All the other acts are basically hindering the human interference, or you can say prohibited the human interference, but this act basically applies for it. All right, that's why it is known as the Forest Right Act. Got it? Known as the Forest Rights Act. Okay, so if we talk about it, so Forest Right Act is basically provides the rights to the indigenous communities or the tribal people. Indigenous communities or the tribal people. All right, and what is the provision of it? Whatsoever written down in it, if we talk about it, then basically this provides for the three rights. Provides for the three rights. And what are these three rights? Come on, just tell me what are these three rights. That is the question for you. Okay, to answer this question, I will providing you the 30 seconds to think and answer. Then I will give you the answer. So your time starts now. Ten seconds have been passed off. Last 20s are remaining. Okay, last 10 seconds are there. Okay, the time's up. The correct answer is three rights: individual rights, community rights, and the common forest rights, or basically you can call say minor forest produce. Okay, if we talk about it, first is the individual right. This right basically deals with the individual. Like if the individual owns the land, then what is his rights regarding that land? If he owns some kind of forest property, what his rights regarding it? All of these things and related things are basically deals with the for individual rights. Second is the community rights. Basically that deals with the common community or the common forest area that is being shared by the entire community. All right, what are their rights and all, and basically if any organization will try to get that area from that community, then how they could protect it from it. All right, the last is the minor forest produce. So basically when we talk about the forest conservation and all, whenever we talk about it, basically we restrict it, or basically we finishes the human intervention in the forest. Okay, and that is also you can say applicables on the tribals and all. The tribals also get affected by it. All right, so basically the minor forest produces, like these are allowed to collect the leaves from the trees, fruits from the trees, other kind of woods that are on the ground, not from the tree. They could not cut down the trees, but they could collect the woods that are, you can say, spread over on the grounds from the you can say the tree and all. Okay, so these are the rights that have been promised under the Forest Right Acts. Okay, and this basically recognizes the rights of the forest dwelling communities. Here you will see one word dwelling is used. Dwelling means those communities who are living in the forest, not those who are living nearby it and all. However, those will be also included, but the main priority would be given to those who are dwelling in the forest, who are living in the forest, because these are more dependent on the forest for their livelihood and survival when we compare it with the others who are living outside of the forest, and there is no relevance or no matching with the people who are living in the mainstream, or you can say the villages that touches the forest boundary but has nothing to do with the schedule and the tribal areas because they are in the mainstream. Got it? So that's the thing. Okay, so now let's move forward. After this, the next thing that we have is the economic development. Like when we were discussing the general concerns that are being faced by the tribal community. Basically, one of them was the economic marginalization. One of them was the economic marginalization. You can say basically the communities are being economically and socially marginalized not in the recent years but since the starting. Why? Because they are living in the forest and all, so that's why their rights and all have not been fully recognized. Okay, so if we really want to uplift them, okay, and indulge with the mainstream, so basically we are required to create the opportunities for them for their economic development. All right, and this could be like creating a sustainable economic opportunities, creating a sustainable economic opportunities. So here you will see the word sustainable economic and opportunities. All right, so first word here is the sustainable. All right, so here you will see the word sustainable is there. What is the meaning of sustainable? The sustainable word basically signifies that the thing that we have today, even the thing we will have tomorrow. Again, I'm repeating, the thing that we have today, the thing we will have tomorrow also. Okay, it means the thing could be preserved or could be sustained. So whatsoever economic opportunities we are creating for them, these should not only for the current generation of the tribals, okay, but these should be developed in accordance like the upcoming generations of the tribals would also have access to these opportunities, would also be benefited. Why? Because we want the tribals to preserve their cultural entity and all. Okay, and this could be done when the tribal population is basically remain in the sphere they are living in. When I say sphere, I'm not mean the conditions they are living in. When I say sphere, I means that the traditional places they are living in, the traditional customs they have, the traditional language they speak and all. Okay, why? Because when we were discussing the general concerns, there was a one concern that was the migration. What was this? Basically, the young tribal individuals, okay, they are often have to migrate from the place they are living in to the urban areas, to the other nearby areas. Why? In search of livelihood. Because the places where they are living right now, those places do not having the you can say sufficient and effective employment resources. Okay, and basically if we're talking about the migration, then we know the migration is an activity of moving from one place to another, right? Just tell me what are the two types of migration. That is, I had told you already. What are the two types of migration? To answer this question, I will give you the 30 seconds to think and answer. Time starts now. 10 seconds have been passed off. Last 20 are remaining. Last 10 seconds are there. The time is going to be up. The time's up. The correct answer is the two forms of the migration is the immigration and the emigration. If we talk about it deeply, immigration basically means when the person, the thing is coming to the place. Emigration means when the person or the thing is getting out of the place. Okay. For example, if someone is living in B and then he is moving to A. For A, he will be an immigrant. Why? Because he is coming inside. All right. He was not previously living there. He has just coming inside. When we talk about the emigrants, okay, then basically in reference of this, the person who had moved from B to A, for B he will be emigrant. Why? Because he had moved out from the place, all right, where he was originally living in. Got it? Thereafter, if I ask you about the Indian contents, and if I ask you what is the major cause of migration in India, then what should be the answer? This is also I have told you, so I'm expecting the right answer. So you have 30 seconds. Time starts now. Just think about it. This is what I had also told you. So I'm expecting the right answer from all of you. 10 seconds are remaining. All right, the time's up. All right. So the correct answer is marriages. Marriages are the major source for migration in India. Okay. So if we connect migration with this, so we will say basically if we will create the economic opportunities for the current population only, then the current population will be benefited. Even the upcoming generation will be benefited. But then what will happen? If the economic opportunities are not sustainable in nature, then after some time, from one generation to another, another to another, so there will be a time when the another ones were forced to move out, and again the process of migration would started. Why? Because these were not sustainable. The economic opportunities they got, those were not sustainable. Okay, so I hope now you have understood why these sustainable economic opportunities are required. Got it? The second is that these opportunities are also tailored to the needs and strengths of the indigenous communities. Also tailored to the needs and strength. It means that these opportunities not should be in our accordance, but as per the need of the tribal area, like whatever need they have in terms of economic development according to this, and also the strength, like which thing we could use as a strength to promote the economic development in that area for the tribals. Okay, and if we talk about it, then this could include various things like the traditional handicrafts, like if you have listened about the Mathili art forms, okay, and there are other kinds of art forms and all from the northeast, from the southern India, central India and all. So basically these traditional crafts could be promoted. How? If the government promotes them, okay, through the various channels, then various stockholders would be interested in it. They will buy it from the tribals, sell it to the market. Okay, and once the tribals will receive the market for selling their traditional crafts, then they would be able to uplift themselves while residing in the same area. After this, the ecotourism like the forest tourism and all, and how it is beneficial for the tribals, because the tribals have been living in the forest for centuries. So basically they are well aware about the forest and all. So basically they could be used as a tour guide, as a tour people to guide the tourist and all. Thereafter, the sustainable agriculture. It means that the slash and burn agriculture activities and other kind of activities what they have right now, these should be changed with these sustainable activities so that even their upcoming generations could be benefited from it. All right. So that is the thing. So students, if you look at here, like we discussed the two things that we could use for addressing the challenges. The first one was for the legal rights. It means like how the tribals are basically neglected from their legal rights. The second one was for their economic marginalization treatment. Like we know, these are oftenly considered as an economic marginalized people. Then how this marginalization could be removed. Okay. So it is my humble request to you, kindly revise the facts and figures in the proper manner before you go for next lecture. Okay. So with this note, let's end this lecture and thank you.